My clock is 6:57, so we got a couple minutes. All right, then. I think we're ready to go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the 39th session of council here in Loyalist Township on this Monday, November the 23rd. And the council session is starting at 7 o'clock. We have been in closed session since 6 o'clock, and we will have a rise and report for that shortly. We will call the meeting to order. It is now 7 o'clock. And as mentioned, we've been in closed session. During that closed session, we, in the interest of a continuing interest of transparency and open governments, I report that report this in open session, the outcomes from today's closed session meeting. We approved the minutes of the closed session agenda from November the 9th and provided direction to staff on an issue of employee negotiations and personal matters. Excuse me. There's no open forum. There's no one in the audience for the open forum this evening? No? Okay. Then we move to a public meeting. The first is a 4.1, proposed amendments to the building bylaw in accordance with the Ontario Building Code Act, SO 1992, Chapter 27.7, 7 and 8. Council shall receive public input regarding proposed changes to fees in Loyalist Township building bylaw. A draft copy of the bylaw is attached and is available. The intent is to come back to council with a recommendation for the passing of this bylaw at the December 14th council meeting. Okay. We have the draft building bylaw before us. Okay. Does staff wish to make a presentation with regards to this? Anyone? No? Okay. And Director Merritt.
Sorry, Your Worship. No, I think Mr. Parkinson is trying to turn on his camera. He had a presentation prepared for tonight, the chief building official. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Okay, Debbie.
Thank you.
Debbie's saying just a second.
I assumed it would be Mr. Parkinson.
You good now, Mark?
There
There
we
he
go.
is.
Technology, don't you just love it?
Welcome, Mr. Parkinson. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. For those who don't know me, I'm Mark Parkinson, Chief Building Official for Loyalist Township. The purpose of tonight's public meeting is to receive input from the public on the proposed changes to Loyalist Township's building bylaw. The changes are threefold: adding on-site sewage systems to the responsibilities of the building division starting January 1st, 2021, due to KFLA's withdrawal of services on December 31st, 2020. Secondly, expanding the language of some sentences to clarify the meanings. Thirdly, changing the fee structures to bring the building division closer to a balanced budget where fees will cover the services provided by the department division. The service levels required by the public in the past few years have increased, as have the complexity of the designs and the inspections that are required. This means a lot more staff time to manage. The reviews of plans take inspectors longer as the requirements of the building code brought forward by the province have increased. While these requirements take more time to review, no more time has been added to the time we have to approve or reject an application. To meet the required timelines, as well as meet the commitment with respect to on-site sewage systems, additional staff have been added in the past few years, so service levels will not suffer. This requires that the fee structure be adjusted to accommodate. Proposed fee increase will place Loyalist in the middle of comparable municipalities that, like Loyalist, do not have the industrial or commercial permit applications that offset the fees for residential construction. This would mean that we would be neither the higher or the lowest on fee structures. Tonight's recommendations will be received from the public on the proposed changes. These recommendations will be considered and added to the report made to council. A full list of the recommendations will be made available to council in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Parkinson. I'll start with council. And do we have questions or comments with regard to the proposed bylaw amendment? Go to Councillor Porter.
Prior to me making my comments in regards to the proposed amendment, are we hearing from the public? And I'm wondering if we can hear from the public first before I make comment.
I can certainly ask the public. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to make comment with regard to the proposed amendments? To the clerk, is there anyone appearing?
No one is raising their hands, Your Worship.
If there is a member of the audience who wishes to speak to the proposed amendments, we would ask that you use the raise hand feature in Zoom to indicate your intention to speak. And we are seeing none at this time. I'll come back to council. We will make room for it if someone comes in the next few moments. Right. Councillor Porter, do you wish to make comments, or does any other member wish to make comment?
I do have comments.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things that was brought to my attention was the fee increase being proposed. And I guess when I looked at it closely and what was pointed out to me is it's like a hat trick for the building permit fees, if so to speak. There's three components to an increase that this bylaw is being proposing. One is the change in how the square footage is calculated. One is the actual increase of the fee itself. And the third is the calculation used to value the cost of construction. So when I did a calculation, so I'm going to talk to the fees first. I have several other things I want to speak to, but the fees I think is the most pressing issue. When you said in your report that it was a modest fee, I'd have to beg to differ on that. And I'm not sure what your definition of modest is, but when I've done the calculation, I'll give an example. A 1,200 square foot bungalow, currently before this amendment, the building permit fee would be approximately $2,100. Now that's calculated using the $14 per $1,000 of construction value, plus using 1,200 square feet, plus using a cost of construction at $125. So that same 1,200 square foot building under this proposal would cost $5,220. So it's more than doubled. Now, unless I'm doing the math wrong, but 1,200 square feet, if you include the basement as being proposed, that's now 2,400 square feet. You're increasing the rate to $14 a square foot. and you're increasing the valuation of construction by $20 up to $145, I believe. So when you do the math on that, it comes out to $5,220. So it's going from $2,100 up to $5,220 for a 1,200 square foot bungalow. So that is significant, and I don't consider that modest. So that's something that, and I'm not saying it's not warranted. Please don't take that the wrong way. I'm not saying that it may very well be warranted, but it is a huge increase, and then that is the result of the three changes on how you're proposing to calculate the building permit fee. Now that may very well, and I know you said we were in the middle of the pack. I would really like to see those numbers, and I'm surprised there was no comparison table that was put forward with this report, because historically we have been on the high side when we compare to our surrounding neighboring municipalities, Stone Mills, Napanee, and Kingston. And when people refer to a building permit, they don't just look at the permit fee itself, because what's also collected at time of building permit issuance is the what I call an impost fee. It's a water and sewer rate charge, connection charge to the services, as well as a development charge. And we're up in around the $25,000 to $30,000 mark. And the last time this was reviewed, we were higher than Kingston, higher than Napanee, much higher than Stone Mills. So I'd be interesting to see how we compare now, because you're saying we're in the middle of the pack. So I just want to be sure that we're pricing ourselves out of the market, because it is to me instinctively it feels contrary to our strategic plan of encouraging and promoting development. But so those are my comments on that. The other are fairly minor in nature, but they are important to raise. Sorry, I have to look behind me at my other screen. Section 4.24. I'd like to go to that section for a second, if we may. One of the things that was in the consultant's report on our service delivery review that we should be incorporating into all new amendments of our bylaw is the diversification between our different areas of our township. Like we have urban and rural, and we have subdivision type development. And 4.24, this gives us an opportunity to look at how we're dealing with rural properties differently than subdivision properties, because there is a significant difference. The requirements that we're asking for, and I know that some of this is not new, but I want to bring it up because it's in the existing bylaw. Like the geodetic elevations of the streets. Where else? I'm going to use layman's terms. The underside of footing elevation and the top of wall elevation. Those typically aren't asked for in a rural build. No other municipality asks for that. And so I'm just wondering why we're going to be asking for top of wall and underside of footing. And I certainly understand the significance in a subdivision, but I have a real difficult time understanding the significance of that information in a rural setting when someone's building on a large acre, 2, 3, 4 acre lot. So I just wanted to make that comment. Also 4.2.5, that again, I want to point out the differences between our rural communities and our subdivision community. Asking for a building location survey. No other municipality asks for that on a rural property. If you're putting your house on a 5 or 2 acre lot even, it's pretty obvious how close you are to your property lines. And, and again, in a subdivision, we get down to the millimeters or inches. So a foundation survey is absolutely necessary. I see that, but certainly not in a rural area. So those two, I just wanted to point out that there's opportunity here to differentiate between the two different areas of building and look at the rural properties and how we're dealing with those when it comes to the building permit requirements and the building requirements overall. And the other thing that kind of stuck out was in the table, and maybe it's just not clear to me, but in the table, it looks like that if you apply for a pool permit, you have to pay for a septic system performance review. There's a fee for it. So I'm not sure if that's a requirement or if that's just a fee in case one's needed. So maybe you could clarify that.
I'll take it point by point. At a 1,200 square foot, calculated at $120 per square foot, times $14 per thousand would be $2,100. The same square footage at $145 per square foot times $15 would be $2,610, an increase of $510 for that same 1,200 square foot.
So are you, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to, well, we got it. Earlier on in the permit, earlier on in the bylaw, you say that the undergrade square footage would be counted as well. I'm gonna just find that and point that out to you.
That is an unfortunate error on my part, that it will be counted as gross footage, but not for calculation purposes. Only if it's finished is it calculated into the permit cost, and
Okay.
at the lower rate of $40 as in the schedule.
Okay, so we're going to correct that and clarify that right in the bylaw, so there's
Yes,
no
I already have
room
wording.
for misinterpretation.
Yeah, I already have wording in there that it would show that it would be only finished space and at the reduced rate for a finished basement.
Okay, good, thank you.
On the matters where you are concerned at 4.24 for the survey, yes, I agree with you that. Oh, sorry, 4.25 is the survey. Yes, we do ask for them for urban, and maybe wording in there that rural on a sufficient lot size, maybe only required if information shows they're too close to the lot line, or wording to that effect.
Yeah, so my concern was you're proposing to change the wording from the location shall be submitted from when requested by. And my first reaction was flexibility. You should try and maintain flexibility as much as possible.
Yeah.
And when you put the word shall be as opposed to when requested by, you're really narrowing your ability to be flexible and make discretionary decisions. And I think it's really important that each case has to be reviewed on its own merits, and not to narrow your ability to make decisions based on the situation is really important. So that, and I think if you were to change the wording back, you'd be fine on that. But that's just.
Okay. Your other point about the geodetic elevations, we don't request them on every lot. Only when engineering points out that there are problems with the water table on the rural lots, then we request that on the rural lots. Other than that, we don't request them. It's for grading purposes and required by engineering in most cases, not by the building department, because we are also passing on to engineering the grading that's required on a severed lot. On a lot of record, we don't even look at grading. It's must be graded away from house is all that's required.
Okay, so that wording could be reflected to take away any ambiguity there. Would that be possible?
we could put in that this may not be required on a rural lot.
Something to that effect, yeah.
Or words to that effect.
Yeah.
That's,
okay, very good.
Okay.
And then there was one other point, which was about the pool.
Oh, the pool, that's only if the pool is within 15 meters of the mantle.
Okay,
And that is something that we may add in for clarity, that if the pool is within 15 meters of the mantle or 5 meters of the tank, then a check would be required to make sure that it's not impacting the system. We've seen pools put right on top of systems.
yeah, no, obviously you don't want that to happen. Okay, thank you very much. Those great answers.
Thank you, Mr. Parkinson. Thank you, Councillor Porter. Did you have any other questions, Councillor Porter?
None at this time. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. I'll go to other members of council. I see the director. The director would like to make comment. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Very quick comment. Councillor Porter also asked about a comparison with other municipalities. And I know we didn't attach the original report to the bylaw tonight, but if she refers to staff report 1486, when we requested for a public meeting, I believe it would have been beginning of October, there is a table attached to that report. So you can see the comparison between different municipalities. And you are correct that we would be higher than Greater Napanee. From what I'm looking here, Greater Napanee and Kingston, but we are lower than South Frontenac, Central Frontenac, Gananoque, sorry, not Gananoque, Rideau Lakes, Cobourg. So that's when we looked at a number of municipalities, and that's we fall around the middle of the pack. That's where that came from. But if you would like to refer back to the report, there's a little bit of information in there as well for your convenience.
Thank you very much. I'll try and find that report.
Thank you.
I can send it to you tomorrow if you'd like.
Director, if
Excellent.
you would
Thank you.
send that to all members of council, we'd appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. I saw Councillor Buderick's hand up. That was for the information.
That was for the information. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on council who wishes to make comment? Seeing none, back to the clerk. Is there anyone in the audience? Oh, actually, before I come to the clerk then, I will go to Councillor Gordon.
I just, perhaps it's a discussion for another day, but I've always been, I guess, somewhat puzzled by the Ontario Building Code being interpreted in almost 444 different ways. It seems like the municipalities don't always line up. So what is a rule, I guess, or a bylaw in one municipality is not in the neighboring one. And it's just one book. I struggle with why there's so many different versions or interpretations or whatever. So just a passing comment on that, but if anyone wants to answer that.
Mr. Parkinson? I wish I did have a perfect answer for that. I don't. We are in the process of and have been meeting the CBOs from all the surrounding areas. We have meetings and we're trying to align with each other. We've been doing this on an ongoing basis for the past couple of years. We are getting better at it, and we hope soon to have something across the board. Most of the smaller municipalities, we are aligned now. It's just the larger ones refuse to align with us, or have us. We have so much more rural than they do, and they don't see the need to change any rules that they've got in place. But we are trying. It's an ongoing situation.
Thank you. At least we're making progress then, as I understand it. So,
Yes, we are.
thank you.
Anyone else from council? Again, I go to the clerk. Is there anyone in the audience who is asking to speak?
I don't see any hands raised, Your Worship.
Thank you. And I'll give it one more chance for anyone in the audience. If you wish to add your comments to this public meeting, please click on the little hand to indicate raised hands, and the clerk will invite you to speak. And we are seeing none. Okay, then we shall continue. Do we need a resolution for this public meeting? To receive the comments? No? Then staff have taken the comments and will be bringing back a bylaw for council's consideration, I believe in December the 14th, that was the date. Yes, thank you. Okay, then we move on to item 4.2, notice of a public meeting with regard to the official plan comprehensive review and update. Right, so take notice that the Council of Loyalist Township has scheduled a public meeting to consider a proposed comprehensive amendment update to the Loyalist Township official plan in accordance with section 1715 of the Planning Act. That public meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, December the 15th, 2020 at 6 p.m. and it will be a virtual meeting. So that is officially noticed, and the draft of official plan amendment has been posted to the website for review. We encourage any and all to provide their comments to that. That is just a notice of public meeting, which brings us to the confirmation of the agenda. Is there anything to add to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, then I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda for this evening. Councillor Parks, seconded by Councillor Buderick. Right. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Then we go to item 6, it's declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Oh, that's the clerk.
Sorry, Your Worship, we do have a planning bylaw that we're going to add in. It's a housekeeping. It was just a correction that needed in order to register.
Okay, then that would be part of the confirmation of the agenda.
Yes.
I need to do a motion for reconsideration to approve an amended agenda.
No.
Can I have a motion to approve the amended agenda with the, oh, sorry, who were the mover and seconder for that?
Parks and Buderick.
And do you consider that amendment friendly, Councillor Parks? And Councillor Buderick is nodding yes. We'll consider that friendly. The agenda is so amended. Thank you. Then we can move on to the declaration of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Is there anyone who has any such declaration to make? Seeing none. Moving to the minutes. We have before us the regular council minutes of November the 9th. Are there any noted errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve that? Councillor Townend, seconded by Councillor Gordon. Thank you. Okay. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next, item 7.2, we have the minutes from the November the 2nd Committee of the Whole meeting. Are there any noted errors or omissions? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve? Councillor Porter, seconded by Councillor Townend. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Item 8, delegations and presentations. Are there any delegations this evening? No? They were not scheduled, so we move forward. Now, unfinished business. Item 10, from the Office of the Chief Administrator, we have a strategic plan progress update. We have the CAO has come on screen. Mr. Silver, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have much more to add other than to say that this is our first report card on the strategic plan. And all staff, we were wondering just how COVID had affected some of our strategic initiatives moving forward. And we were quite pleased to see the progress that we've been able to make in 2020, despite the pandemic. And I would just like to thank all township staff, right from the front line on up, for their assistance in achieving these objectives during 2020, which was certainly not a normal year. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Mr. Silver. Council, you have the report before you. There's a number of areas that are covered through our strategic plan. And you will recall that this council spent a lot of time last year getting this strategic plan developed. It's great to see progress moving forward. Does council have any questions, either it be in general or specific areas of the strategic plan and the progress? Seeing none, then I will echo the CIO statements, and great thanks to our staff for being able to move forward with these in these very difficult times. It's great to see progress, and we're looking forward to even more progress as we move forward in this term. So thank you. I will need a motion to receive this report. Councillor Townend, second by Councillor Porter. Right. Any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving forward to item 11.1, temporary borrowing bylaw. And we have the treasurer, the director of finances here to speak to it if he needs to. Mr. Dickey, do you have anything to add to the report at this time?
Nothing to add this time, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. This is a fairly standard measure that we've taken every year to keep our finances rolling. Right. Council, do we have any questions before I ask for a motion? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion, please. Councillor Porter, so moved. And Councillor Buderick. Right. Any comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 11.2, interim escalation to the development charges. Right. Again, we have a report from the Business Services Department. Mr. Dickey, do you wish to add anything at this time? No. Okay. Do we have any questions for Mr. Dickey with regard to this report? Seeing none, I look for a motion. Councillor Townend, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Buderick. Okay. No comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move on to 11.3, report on water and sewer rates. Okay. Again, we have a report before us. Mr. Dickey, do you have comment to add to this?
Just nothing really new. Just at a high level, our water consumption was a little bit higher, and our ERUs were up a bit higher than projected during 2020. So we have proposed to council to lower the rates to still raise the same revenue as in the original long-term model that was developed last year, but kind of carrying on with projected a little bit higher in terms of consumption than we anticipated a year ago. So we're offsetting we proposed offsetting the rates, make them a little bit lower to raise the same revenue, but to adjust according to experience that we've had this year.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Just to be clear, you're not lowering the rates, you're just lowering the percent increase. Like you're still, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but we're still doing the 8% as recommended in the report.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we had the projected increases. We have projected increases for each of the user type, and they're still going up, but they're a lower increase than we had projected a year ago.
So how much are we increasing them by? How much are you proposing that they be increased by?
For the low users, the original projection from the model last year was 4.3%, and with these updated calculations, we have that 4.3 down to 3.1% increase this year. For medium, it was projected at 6.3 in the model. It's now being proposed at 4.6. And the high level, high user was at 8% initially, and it's now projected at 5.8% with a higher consumption.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for the question. I know it's all in your report, but I did read the report and I just didn't understand I didn't understand that's what you were saying.
Thank you, Councilor Porter. I definitely understand that. The issue of the fact that we're changing the flat rates at the same time as we're changing the consumption rates means that it's not always a straightforward calculation and easy to follow, certainly.
Correct.
Is there any other member of council who wishes to make comment or question with regard to this report? Seeing none, I look for a motion with regard to the report. Councillor Townend, go ahead. So moved.
Move to receive and adopt.
Thank you. Councillor Buderick, you're seconding? Thank you. Mover, any comment? Seconder, any comment?
Yes, I would have a little comment. This is one of the hot button topics I hear about a lot, and I know many other members of council do as well. And the fact that we can rein it in a bit and still make sure the bills are paid. I'm glad that our finance department has done this. And as much as it is an increase, we are working towards kind of not burdening our taxpayer base as much as we could have, which is good to see. Thank you.
Thank you. And any other comments? Councillor Gordon, go ahead.
I would echo what Councillor Buderick just said. I think that was definitely a hot spot, so should make the trip through Foodland much more pleasant. But, just a comment. Anyway, good to see.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, Councillor Parks, go ahead.
Hi, I just wanted to echo the same sentiments as Councillor Buderick and Councillor Gordon. It is one of the hot topics, definitely, that we deal with quite regularly about it. So being able to offset some of the increases with the consumption rates being higher, that is a good thing. So I'm pleased to see that.
Absolutely. Thank you. I would add that the 4-year plan has a declining increase in each of those 4 years, if I'm recalling correctly, so that at the end of this 4-year period, we would be down to very moderate increases on an annualized basis. So this just adjusts that to the better. Anyway, final word back to the mover. Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moving to 11.4, 2021 escalation of fees and charges to pay for the capital cost of waterworks and sewer works. We have a report. Do you have anything to add to it at this time, Mr. Dickey?
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions or comments with regard to that? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Yeah, just to say, I really would like to know where we sit in comparison to the neighboring municipalities with this. This was one of the areas that we were really high on compared to other municipalities. So, we want to just, I think it's just good practice to see where others sit in comparison to us when we're proposing rate increases. It's just a comment.
Thank you. Mr. Dickey, do we have that information available that could be shared out to all members of council?
We can pull together. We don't have it readily available, but we could pull together some comparators.
Thank you.
Send to council.
Anyone else on council wish to comment? No? Did I have a mover and seconder for that? Don't think I asked for it yet. Okay, can I have a mover for that then? Councillor Townend, so moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parks. Okay. Mover and seconder, any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Moving forward. Item 12.1, Community and Customer Services Department, the reopening of the recreation facilities report. We have a report for information. I believe the director is here. Right. Not coming on screen, so I'm guessing she has nothing to add at this time. Does council have any questions? There she is. Does council have any questions for the director? No? Does the director have anything she wishes to add at this time?
Nothing further, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. I look for a motion to receive this for information. Councillor Townend, second by Councillor Porter. Any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Laurie. You can go back to vacation. From the Corporate Services Department, the Township Clerk, we have report number 13.1, an update on the Ombudsman's final report recommendations regarding the closed session investigation from July 8th, 2019. We have the report from the clerk before us. Does the clerk have anything to add to it at this time?
No, Your Worship, not unless there's questions.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions or with regard to the report? Seeing none. We have a recommendation with 3 actions. Does council wish to make such a motion? Councillor Townend, so moved.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Gordon. Move or comment?
Just only, Your Worship, that I think the recommendations are good. We need to constantly be vigilant about our commitment to transparency and open government, and hopefully this will improve our procedures in closed.
Thank you. Seconder comment? No? Anyone else? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Yeah, I really like the recommendation 3, that the motions be typed and displayed on screen. I think that's a really good record and a really good way to ensure, because I know that we sometimes all take away different ideas of what a motion was, especially in a complicated or long or a motion that wasn't, worded as well as it could have been. But I'm just wondering, is that something that maybe could be done for open session as well? Do you see that happening in the future?
To the clerk.
Yes, through the chair, I do see that as a possibility. We are planning some additional changes for the audiovisual in council chambers once we go back to in person, and it's probably something that we can even look at doing on screen, because as it's happening, we can put it on and then I can just share screen, so that would be something that we could move forward with pretty quickly.
Thank you. Any else have questions or comments? No, I also very much support that and the other recommendations as well. Being sure that we are following protocol and fully knowledgeable of the protocol as we utilize closed session and open session is very important for all members of council and for all of our residents. So we're glad to see these coming forward. Back to the mover for final comment. And I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Now we have item 13.2, the proposed amendments to the procedural bylaw. Okay. We have a report, and you'll note that the recommendation is an or. Okay. And so I'll turn to the clerk first. Do we have anything to add to this report at this time?
I don't, unless clarity is required in some of the sections. I think I tried to include in the report the sections that pertain to the questions that were asked of us. But if there's further questions, I can try and answer them.
Thank you. Council, do we have any further questions? None? Then I'll ask for a mover. Councillor Porter, go ahead.
I'll move to receive the report and that the bylaw amendment be presented at the December 14th council meeting with the intent to adopt the bylaw, subject to comments received.
Thank you. So moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Parks, thank you. And mover, any comments?
No, other than thank you to the clerk. We did a lot. We reviewed this several times now, and you've done a lot of work on it, so I appreciate that.
And thank you. Second or comment? Nothing? Anyone else? And I will add my thanks to the clerk, but I will also add my thanks to council. The procedural the clerk continually reminded me that the procedural document is a living document. That's her phrase. Certainly she recognizes it. And that we need to make sure that A, we understand it, B, it reflects what we want it to reflect, and C, that we continually update it to ensure that it suits our purposes for our meetings. So thankful for the work of the clerk and her department, but I'm also thankful for council for its time invested in making sure that our processes are well understood and meet our needs. And with that, back to the mover. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Moving forward to item 14.1, civic addressing bylaw. We have a report before us. We have the director, Dr. Merritt. Do you have anything to add at this time?
Yes, Your Worship. So when this report was first brought to council, a question was requested. A question was asked with respect to commemorative names. Typically, because there's three other name categories that basically the requester just needs to put in a request through staff, and the staff evaluates the name suggestion. And if that suggestion meets the criteria as set in Schedule B, then the name would be approved. The only exception here is with respect to commemorative name if it's suggested by a member of the public. In that case, that request would be coming to council for approval. So the question that was posed to us was, why is there an exception there? So basically, we feel that member of the public that are suggesting a commemorative name should have the right to be heard by council. Staff would still vet the suggestions and come to council with a recommendation. These requests sometimes could be contentious, especially if the person whose name is being put forward is still alive. So in line with the concept of delegated authority with planning files, for example, basically, if there's a file that's contentious, we defer to council to adopt a recommendation. So that's why we're putting forward that commemorative name coming from the public would be an exemption, and it's recommended to be added to that bylaw. And it's also in line with other similar bylaws from other municipalities that we reviewed to put this bylaw together.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions with regard to the report and the edits that have taken place? Seeing none, I look for a motion. And Councillor Townend, so moved. Councillor Buderick seconding. Thank you. Councillor Townend, any comment? Councillor Buderick, any comment? Anyone else? None. Right. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Director. And we move to item 14.2, 2024-162 Ontario Limited Bar Homes request to remove holding symbol for Lakeside Ponds Phase 2 Stage 1. Again, we have a report before us. Is there anything to add to this report at this time from the Director?
No, Your Worship.
Thank you. Council, are there any questions with regard to this report? Seeing none, I look for a motion. Councillor Buderick, seconded by Councillor Porter. Okay. Any comments? No? Anywhere? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to communications for consideration. Item 16.1, Royal Canadian Legion Command has made a donation request. Council, what would you like to do with this? Anyone? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Yeah, move to receive and do a business card donation.
Thank you. So moved, seconded by, and Councillor Parks. And Councillor Porter, any comment?
No, just that it's very worthy to support. We have, as we have done so in the past.
Absolutely. Councillor Parks? Nothing? Anyone else? No? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Next communication for consideration is from the MMAH. And we have the letter before us. Council, what would you like to do with this? Anyone? I got a motion to receive. Anyone? Like Councillor Buderick, go ahead.
Just a motion to receive for information.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that? Councillor Porter, thank you. Comments? No. Councillor Buderick, Councillor Porter, anyone else? No? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Townend, did you have comment?
Yes, Your Worship, just for clarification, is it the intention that the questionnaire that has been provided will be filled out and returned to the ministry?
And to the mover? And it is the intention that it would be completed by staff?
Yes.
And thank you. There's your clarity, Councillor Townend. Did staff understand that as the motion? Clerk is nodding. Good. Okay, now I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Come to item 17. Notice of a motion or direct motion. Do we have anything before us this evening? Anyone? Councillor Townend.
I have two, Your Worship. The first of which I have provided to the clerk in advance. It's a long one. I don't know if she's able to get that up on screen for colleagues and for the public.
Is the clerk able to share that on screen? I'll still ask Councillor Townend to read it out once it's up. It's coming. Hope everyone can read that. It's a little small, but it should work. Councillor Townend, go ahead.
Whereas the province has introduced Bill 229, Protect, Support, and Recover from COVID-19 Act, Schedule 6, Conservation Authorities Act. Whereas the legislation introduces a number of changes and new sections that could remove and/or significantly hinder the Conservation Authority's role in regulating development, permit appeal process, and engaging in review and appeal of planning applications. Whereas municipalities rely on the watershed expertise provided by local conservation authorities to protect residents, property, and local natural resources on a watershed basis by regulating development and engaging in reviews of applications submitted under the Planning Act. Whereas the legislation suggests that the minister will have the ability to establish standards and requirements for non-mandatory programs which are negotiated between the conservation authorities and municipalities to meet local watershed needs. Whereas municipalities believe that the appointment of municipal representatives on CA boards should be a municipal decision, and the chair and vice chair of the CA board should be duly elected. Whereas conservation authorities have already been working with the province, development sector, and municipalities to streamline and speed up permitting and planning approvals through Conservation Ontario's Client Service and Streamlining Initiative. Whereas proposed changes to the legislation will create more red tape and costs for the conservation authorities and their municipal partners, and potentially result in delays in the development approval process. And whereas Loyalist Township has made a strategic commitment to be a leader in climate change mitigation and environmental stewardship, for which our local conservation authority, the Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority, is an indispensable partner. Therefore, be it resolved that the province of Ontario repeal Schedule 6 of the Budget Measures Act, Bill 229, that the province continue to consult with conservation authorities and municipalities to find workable solutions to reduce red tape and create conditions for economic growth that do not sacrifice environmental protections, that the province respects the current conservation authority/municipal relationships, and that the province embrace their long-standing partnership with the conservation authorities and provide them with the tools and resources they need to do their work. To effectively implement their watershed management role.
Thank you, Councillor Townend. That is a notice of motion. It does not require a seconder. It will be on the agenda for our next council meeting. Okay. Was there another motion or notice of motion, Councillor Townend? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Your Worship, if I might proceed. I would like it to be timely, but I'll let you judge that. Whereas Loyalist Township is responsible for the operation of the Amherst Island Ferry Service, whereas revenues from ticket sales on the Frontenac 2 offset the township's portion of the operational costs, and whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has made it necessary to cease the former method of physical ticket sales and cash collection, be it resolved that staff provide an update report on the status of the new system, which is anticipated to be implemented to restart the collection of fares.
Thank you. As it's asking for a report, which would not come until the next meeting anyway, I will accept that as a direct motion. And so that is so moved. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Porter, go ahead. You're seconding?
Yes.
It is therefore moved and seconded. Councillor Townend, would you like to speak to it?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just that, residents are obviously asking lots of questions about when the fare system is expected. It was anticipated to be in the fall. I know, of course, staff are working very hard on it, but obviously the public would appreciate an update as to how that process is ongoing.
Thank you. The seconder, Councillor Porter, do you have any comment?
Yes, I do. I agree it's a good idea. We need to get it back on track, in my opinion, as soon as possible, the collection of fees start up. But I also want to make a comment that even though there's going to be, the report coming with a status update on the alternative way of collecting fees, there's also a lot of businesses are still accepting cash, and they have put measures in place to protect their staff when dealing with cash, and I'm not so sure that we shouldn't go back to that. So I'm looking forward to the report, and hopefully we can talk in greater detail when that comes.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment on that? And Councillor Parks, go ahead.
This is actually timely. I appreciate Councillor Townend bringing this forward. I agree with Councillor Porter that I think many of our other departments are accepting cash payments for services that are being rendered. So maybe we should be looking at bringing that back into a timely fashion too for the ferry fees. So I eagerly await the report.
Thank you. Other members of council? Back to the mover. Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And does the clerk have a copy of that motion? The clerk will have a copy of that motion.
I was gonna say.
Thank you very much. This would be a good one to put on screen like we were just talking about in the procedural bylaw. Okay, moving forward. Are there any other notices of motion or motions, direct motions from council? Seeing none. Okay, we'll move forward to the consent agenda. For the purpose of the convenience and for expediting meetings, matters of business that are repetitive or routine in nature are included in the consent agenda, and all such matters of business contained in the consent agenda are voted on collectively. A particular matter of business may be singled out from the consent agenda for debate or for separate vote upon the request of any councillor. In the case of a separate vote, the excluded matter of business is severed from the consent agenda. Each and every matter of business contained in the consent agenda is recorded separately in the minutes of the meeting. We have the consent agenda before us. Do we have anything from any member of council that they wish to separate out of the consent, of the consent agenda? Councillor Porter.
21-1 and 21-2.
21-1 and 21-2. Anyone else? None? Okay. Then can I get a motion for the consent agenda without 21-1 and 21-2? Councillor Buderick, seconded by Councillor Townend. Any comments on any of them items within the consent agenda? No? Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. We move to item 21-1, which is a resolution from another municipality, the township of Amaranth, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Right. And Councillor Porter, you're the one that wanted it separated. Would you like to speak to it? Go ahead.
Just a move to receive and support.
And motion to receive and support. And Councillor Townend seconding. Thank you. Councillor Porter, would you like to speak to it?
Just that any changes that take away our ability as a local municipal council to govern and to represent our constituents, any reduction of that, we've been stripped of so much ability and, for lack of a better word, power of decision making that I think we should stand up and continue to fight to ensure that we maintain our ability to govern at a local level.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Porter. Seconder, comment?
Yes, Your Worship. I thank Councillor Porter for extracting this, as I couldn't agree more. Municipal politics, affects people the most, really, and yet, it's often hard to get people to turn out to vote in municipal elections. We need as much engagement, civic engagement with municipal politics as possible, and democratic reform is often a key way of doing that. And I completely agree with Councillor Porter's sentiments, and it's distinctly relevant in our neighborhood as Kingston, voted to have ranked ballots at their next election, and precisely these proposed changes pull the rug right from under local governments, local people speaking for how they want their local government to represent them.
Thank you, Councillor Townend. Other members of council? And I too would voice my support for this, in that municipalities are a mature level of government, even though our actions are somewhat restricted by the Municipal Act and a variety of different acts for the rules that we follow from the province. When we should be able to, as we just did with our procedural bylaw, be able to make the decisions supporting our own municipality and our own residents as they elected us to do. So thank you for bringing this out. Back to the mover for final comment.
No.
Thank you. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And you asked for 21-2, which I believe is around the same issue.
Same resolution, same reasons.
Are you so moving that, Councillor Porter?
Moving and supporting.
Thank you. Seconded by? I got all the hands. Councillor Buderick. And Councillor Porter, would you like to add comment again?
No, I've said enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Buderick? Anyone else?
It's all been said.
Thank you. Then I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the consent agenda, which brings us to item 24, members' privilege. Is there anything anyone would like to bring up under members' privilege? I saw Councillor Townend's hand. Go ahead.
I'd like to take the opportunity to be the brown noser of the group and congratulate his worship on his acclamation as the new warden in 2021 for the county of Lennox and Addington.
Thank you very much. Anyone else have anything more important to bring forward under members' privilege? Seeing none, we'll move forward. Next on the schedule is meeting dates. You will have noted by email earlier today that while the Committee of Adjustment for December the 7th has been canceled, I have called for, as the chair of the Committee of Adjustment, I have called for a special meeting of that committee tomorrow afternoon at 6 o'clock. It should be a very brief meeting to deal with an extension. Beyond that, December 7th, we are having a Committee of the Whole meeting, and then December the 14th, regular council, and December the 15th, the statutory public meeting for the official plan. Any questions with regard to that schedule? I'll go to the director or go to the clerk. I think you're frozen. Is the clerk frozen? Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I'm back. I don't know whether that showed me still alive and you all frozen, but through your worship, just wanted to let council know as well. We'll be sending out an email just for confirmation for Roma and OGRA attendance as well, so that we can get those in, so that we meet the, we don't miss the early bird deadline to get registered for those.
Yes, just a reminder to council, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association and the Ontario Good Roads Association each have their annual conferences in January and February. They will be virtual this year, but if you wish to, there's obviously very good information available to all members of council through that. And if you'd like to attend those, just let the clerk know. Thank you. Councillor Parks?
Sorry, if I could just ask the clerk when the dates are for the Roma, please.
I don't have them right in front of me. We'll send them out tomorrow by email to all of council, so that you have both dates.
Thank you.
And anything else from anyone? Then we have the confirmatory bylaw. Would someone like to move that? Oh, the clerk?
Sorry, we just have the other bylaw that was added.
Oh, yes.
And I can, whoops.
Bring that up on screen for us.
Up on the screen. Whoops. So what, oops, let me just get it. So what it is a, when they went to register the park lot control, there was a missing legal description. So we just corrected that. Where's my share button? Of course I can't.
We're fixing a typo is what we're doing.
Yes, it's just to for the approved description. So it will be a new bylaw, just because the other bylaw had a like I say, a missing a lot in it. So that's all this bylaw is doing, is just correcting bylaw 2020-073, I believe it was.
And can I get someone to move the correction to 2020-73, which is 2020-79? Councillor Townend, you're so moving. Thank you. With the share, I can only see a few members.
I will stop sharing.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that? I think Councillor Buderick, your hand's up. And any questions with regards to this? Councillor Porter, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because there's not much to go by with that notice, but I think that's the one I declared a conflict of interest on, so I should declare the conflict on. I think, it looks familiar. Is that to do with the Mill Creek?
To the clerk? Actually, possibly, no, we don't have a planner with us.
That's okay, don't worry about it. Just say I declared a conflict. I'll just play it safe,
I
okay?
believe it is Councillor Porter.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your council's indulgence on, as I say, correcting a typo. And did I call the question on that? Then I will do so now. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. And was there anything else that I missed? Okay, then we'll go to the confirmatory bylaw. And can I get a motion for that? Councillor Porter, second by Councillor Buderick. And call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. And a motion to adjourn. And Councillor Gordon, Councillor Buderick. And call the question. All those in favor? Motion is carried. And thank you all. Have a great night. We are adjourned.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.